following on from the previous episode, I bring you another interview from my archive. And this time, it's an interview I did with Brendan B Brown of Wheatus, which was conducted in 2013 on a show I used to do called the Millennium Years, which was a syndicated radio program that focused primarily on the years 1995 to 2005. And occasionally I had a guest on. That week it was Brendan. I have some amazing memories of talking to him. I was still very new to the interviewing game then, even though I'd done a fair few. And I can tell you that I hadn't listened to this since I had previously edited it 8 years ago, and I was astonished. There are certain things then that I wouldn't do now, and I should say that with that in mind, the sound isn't as good as it could be. There was a lot of distortion in places. I was using dodgy mixing desks, an old laptop, other bits and pieces. I think I had technical difficulties, but as usual, the show had to go on. And thus, it doesn't sound, as I say, as good as it could. I've tried to clean it up as best I can, and everything is still audible. I just wanted to present to you this piece of work that I did quite a while ago now, because a lot of it is still relevant. Without further ado, here is the interview that I did with Brendan B Brown of Wheatus in 2013. I'm, of course, here today with Brendan Brown from the band Wheatus. Hello, Brendan.
Hello, Jamie.
How are you? How are you doing? How's the band going on?
I'm well. We're all very well. We're in the middle of recording album 6. Almost all of the bass is done. All the drums have been done for a while now, and we're just I'm just in the middle of doing guitars with my friend John from the band Late Cambrian. So,
what's the new album called? Or have you not got a title yet?
Yeah, no, we have one. It's called the Valentine LP.
Ah, is it due to be released in February?
That wasn't the reason we called it that, but it did look for a while like we were going to get it done for Valentine's Day. And then that wicked storm, Sandy, happened here in New York, and we got had to sit for about 14 or 15 days with no power. So it was it threw our whole schedule off, and we had to rewrite the book. So there's it looks like we're on course for April now.
When you come to write songs, how do you sit down and do it? What's your writing method?
There's a couple of different ways that it kind of unfolds for me. Sometimes it's a story, a narrative of some kind that feels like it sounds like something. I know that's I'm mixing my senses, but then there's a sort of a riff-based progress situation that unfolds sometimes, where it's sort of like a hooky little guitar riff will stick around for a bit and make its way into a chord progression and then become a song. So it's a couple of different paths to.
In the I hope you don't mind me asking this. In the UK, your most famous song is probably "Teenage Dirtbag." Would you say that was true?
I would say that that's definitely true.
Yeah. Some people have asked me, I did ask some people prior to this interview what they'd like to ask you, and they asked, where did that song come from?
It's a bit of a long story. It's not exactly what people would think. When I was about 10 or 11 years old in the summer of 1984, here on Long Island, there was a ritual, drug-induced, satanic teen homicide. It happened in the woods close to my childhood home, and when the perpetrator was arrested, he was wearing an AC/DC T-shirt, and I was walking around at that age already with a tape case full of AC/DC and Metallica and Iron Maiden, and of course there was a tremendous amount of parental and police sort of wariness about the music that I'd been listening to, and a lot of us, we little dirtbags, we paid a bit of a price for that ridiculous episode, and it's a sort of that was the setting, the backdrop of the song Teenage Dirtbag. I guess it's a little bit of a sort of a statement about what somebody might be wearing or what somebody might be listening to, and that there was a time in my own life in particular where that was incredibly important and could be have grave consequences, and that's the setting for that song. And of course, it's a bit of a fantasy in terms of the love narrative and all that stuff.
Yes, yeah, definitely. If you fast forward through 6 albums, would you say that your style has developed, or is it the same as it was when you started?
Oh, I'd say that it's nothing like what it was when we started. I've always been very fond of bands that don't have any genre allegiance, and so when I produce records, it's just as likely that any kind of a top 40 pop song technique will get included, as will a heavy metal technique or a hip hop technique or something like that. So, eclectically produced records with a lot of different influence are hard to pin down. So we've evolved with all of that that soup, like our last record, the Jupiter EP, is a bit of a progressive rock kind of thing at times.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit odd, like Frank Zappa-ish at times, and there's still. I'm a big fan of the way that the record's produced by the Cars sound. So every once in a while, we'll try and get that feeling on tape. Not writing songs like them in any way, but just trying those recorded techniques, So if you look at our stuff, I don't think our first record has much at all to do with our last album 5 at all. However, the new record is a bit of a return to the way that we did the first one with real big acoustic drums and loud guitars and stuff. I was telling my friend Chris Caraba from Dashboard Confessional the other day that it was a weird sing-along record with big loud guitars, and that's the way I would describe the new one.
Yeah. Well, we certainly look forward to that. Do you produce it yourself?
Yeah, I always have, yeah.
Yeah, well,
yes.
That certainly shows. Do you think you've learnt a lot over the time? Have you ever sort of laid something down and thought, I don't like that, and gone back and done it again?
Oh, yeah. The first song I started working on for guitars on this new record, took me about 2 weeks recording every single day to figure out what the guitar was supposed to be like and which amps to use and how loud it was going to be in the mix. So yeah, I certainly go back to the drawing board quite a bit. And I did with Teenage Dirtbag too. The first record was actually recorded 4 separate times, starting in about 1995 or so. I was working alone on a 4-track with a drum machine and a bass, and I find that there's never a point that you get to where you're like, okay, I know how to produce a record now, and I've reached that point. That's never going to happen. I always feel like I have to learn from scratch how to produce each song on its own. So
it sounds like you've obviously learned from what you've done before. I had a question in from someone, and they wondered where the name Wheatus came from.
That's the oldest question of all time.
I apologise.
That's okay. No, it's fine. I'm happy that you're interested. The word is a sort of a devolution of the word little. My father used to call us Wheatus when we were kids, and it's a nickname that he made up that sort of devolved out of the word little. So. It's a nonsense word. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Have you ever recorded anything by yourself as a solo artist?
That's a funny question. Wheatus serves that purpose in my life pretty adequately, so I don't ever really feel like doing that. I like being in a rock band, in a live performing rock band, and rock is a term when for lack of a better, but the solo thing doesn't occur to me really. I feel like all of those urges are met with the band that I'm currently in. you know.
Yeah. I've always wondered, actually, first time I heard Teenage Dirtbag when it first came out, why on some versions the actual expletives were cut out, or what were seen to be expletives.
Yeah, that's a funny story. When we delivered Teenage Dirtbag to the record label, to Columbia Records, it was about April of 2000, year 2000. Sorry, April of 2000. And do you remember what that was? The anniversary of the Columbine shooting.
Oh yes.
That was the 1 year anniversary. So they had a real problem with the lyrics about him bringing a gun to school.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Regardless of my stance on it, I was actually taking a position that probably wasn't the best thing to be doing, and still feel that way. And I think that was just, the kind of fear-driven record label politics of the time,
When you write songs, I know some artists, they like to stick the odd expletive in. Do you like to stay clean, or do you like to use it for effect, or?
I don't think about it that much, to be honest. If the song sounds better, or if the expression is better or more effective with foul language, then so be it. And if it isn't, then so be that. I don't really think about it that much.
This is quite an old question, actually, but it's that standard question. If someone came to see you at a gig, what would they expect? Do you do any kind of stage show, or is it just you as you are with your music, or?
Well, aesthetically speaking, I have always been a bigger fan of acts that didn't spice up the performance, aside from the actual musical content. I was a big fan of Rush growing up, and AC/DC, and I saw a band that I've always been a big fan of, a band called Quicksand, a couple of nights ago, and they stand there on the stage and they play their music, and it's interesting enough, and that's the vibe. We do keep it a bit more interactive than other bands. I think that we have been keeping this thing going for the last few years, where we ask the audience what they want to hear, and they get to make up the set list in real time. With some limitations, but generally speaking, we just ask them what songs they want, and then when they call them out, we play them.
Has there ever been any bizarre requests?
Not really. There's always somebody who wants to hear, thinks it's funny to shout out Freebird, and we toyed with the idea of learning the entire thing, the entire boring, terrible thing that is Freebird. I can't stand that song. I like some Leonard Skinner, but that song just drives me crazy. I can't take it. So we toyed with the idea of learning the whole tedious bit, and if somebody shouts it out, well, too bad. Now you have a whole 15 minutes worth of this terrible song that you have to sit through. And,
I know that you released a cover of an Erasure song back in 2001, I believe. But have you done any other covers since?
Not recorded. We've played some live covers. Lately, we've been doing "My Name Is Jonas" by Weezer as a return of the favor for them doing Teenage Dirtbag at the festivals. And we also played a Willie Nelson song here and there, and toyed around with Jay-Z's 99 Problems for a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, and we did release, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting that we did release the one cover of Pat Benatar's Hit Me With Your Best Shot. That was floating around for a little while a few years ago. So yeah, we do mess around with some other music.
Yeah, because I can admit to you now, I've always wanted to admit to you, when I first heard A Little Respect, I heard your version before I heard Erasure's. So once I heard Erasure's, theirs didn't quite sound right, even though that was the original version.
Yeah, for shame.
I know, I'm a huge Erasure fan now, but obviously, I mean, that was like the beginning of the internet, wasn't it? Really,
Yes.
2000, 2001, and all we had was like dial-up. Music wasn't as readily available. The only sort of terms were the television and the radio, and at that time, they were playing your song a lot, on Radio 1 and stuff. Whenever I tuned in. Do you think the radio play has been a factor in your success as well?
It certainly has. Joe Wiley was I think the first BBC. I think at the time she was at Radio 1.
Yes, she was.
And she came out strong for us, and that was really what put it on people's minds, and that was very fortunate, and we've been even more fortunate to have it kind of stick around. And last year in 2012, in I think it was March or April, it broke into the top 40 official countdown again.
Yeah.
And it did the same the year before in 2011. So it was very strange and kind of cool, and I have it a big favor to pay back to Joe Wiley for that, and to the whole BBC. So that was really kind of fortunate for us. It gave us a musical career, so to speak.
When you sing, do you like to keep your own accent, or I know some British singers kind of have this American twang on them, even if they're British. What do you do?
My real accent, the one that I've had to push back a bit, is a sort of New York, Long Island accent. And growing up, I've watched some old VHS tapes of myself when I was a teenager, and I had a very thick New York accent. And since then, it's kind of gone away a little bit, just because I have not been interacting in the way that I was when I was a kid with my local Long Island neighbors as much. But when I get angry, it comes back. so the accent that I sing with is just a sort of I don't really think about it that much. It's kind of just an extension of the way that I speak now.
Yeah.
But not the way that I've always spoken. No, certainly not.
No. Well, I think I'm going to call it there, but thank you very much for talking to me, Brendan. And, I hope the new album comes on okay, and I'll certainly be first in line to buy a copy. Will that be physical or digital?
Well, we have a pretty extensive download system at Wheatus.com. You can go there and you can get the majority of our catalog for free, or you can donate to the cause. And when we do put it out, I think we're going to be doing downloads and vinyl only. We did CDs, and we have done CDs for our albums 4 and 5, but we... It looks like we're going to try and get away from physical product this time around and just keep it strictly digital or strictly analog.
Yeah, I'd imagine that vinyl would sound quite good with your kind of your sound.
Well, we currently do have a double vinyl set available on our website, and it's a sort of a milestone in recording technology. We're the first band to ever cut a vinyl record off of a DSD system, which is our 1-bit recording system, is super high resolution. And we're also the first band to ever cut a record off of 1-inch tape, which is, there's only one machine of its kind, and my friend Paul has it in Brooklyn. So we tried for some interesting technology on the last record, and it shows. The vinyl sounds particularly large and crisp, and we like it.
Yes, yeah, I've got mine sitting here. I'm sure you sit down with your vinyl sometimes, I should think.
Yep, indeed. My Who records. The Who is the best band on vinyl, in my opinion. It holds up so well.
Well, our British audience will love that. Of course, they closed the Olympics, didn't they?
They sure did, and who better to do it than those guys?
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Well, thank you very much, Brendan, for talking to me. And, I hope everything goes all right for you and the tour and everything.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. We'll speak again, I'm sure, when we're ready to drop the record. I'll give you a buzz.
Yeah, definitely. And, give us a buzz if you're around the south of the UK at all.
Will do. Thanks, man.
Yes, thank you very much. That's me, Jamie Dyer, talking to Brendan B Brown from the band Wheatus in 2013. Thanks for listening to this episode of the 90s and Noughties UK podcast. I'll be back soon with more episodes. Be sure to keep in touch.
Thank you for listening to 90s and Noughties UK, a podcast on UK pop culture of the 90s and 2000s. Please remember to rate, comment and subscribe on your favourite podcast provider. If you want to contact the show, email 90sandnoughties@gmail.com, tweet us on @90sandnoughties UK on Twitter, or check us out on Facebook, 90s and Noughties UK.